I did RF in the Army prior to joining previous company I was with called PME. I had learned how to do signals collections and analysis and got a little bit interested, and then did audio engineering. And then luckily I had a friend who was working in a contract engineering company, and he recommended me, and I joined, but I have never actually worked as a staff engineer, which I think is relatively unusual. Most people have worked before and gone, and that's how I ended up into contract engineering.
Cool. And I mean, I've got a bucket load of various things, and we'll skip through a lot of it just in the interest of time.
Yeah.
But one thing, so, and this may not be something you deal with as part of a group of people, but what about insurance?
You should get it. So if your contract, most of your clients that are going to have are going to give you the requirements for what you need to have in terms of liability, and you have to go out and get it and show the proof. And as an advice, if you are side contracting, as your staff engineer side contracting for someone else, or you're 1099, you also still need your own insurance. You will not be covered under someone else's, or if you contract for a larger company, please get your own insurance.
That was one thing. The other thing, because of course as a staff engineer, you know what transmitters you have, you know what consoles you have, you know what equipment you've got. This is the back of my truck, ignore it. It's just a picture of everything in the back of my truck. But how do you equip a vehicle when you have no idea what you're going to be working on tomorrow?
With everything, I suppose. I mean, staff engineers have to do it too with all, I mean, or if you're going to a mountain, or if you're going out to the desert, or whatever version of transmitter disaster that you have at the site, you need bolt cutters or chainsaws, or you need as much test gear as you can have. I think the most important tool you can have is your phone and a pair of wireless headphones, because you are going to have to call someone. I think you were talking about it, calling everyone around you. The only thing that makes me feel comfortable or safe going to these sites that I've never been to before is that I can call someone, I share my location, and I know that even when I'm doing something unsafe, I have someone on the phone with me to call 911 in case.
Yeah.
As that myself.
Well, and beyond that, I mean, just as an example, this thing is equipped with the Find My app. My Android has the Find app. My wife can track me wherever I go. Now, in Las Vegas, it's hotel, dinner, conference room, hotel, floor, hotel, conference room. Floor could happen at any time for after a week here, but that's kind of the point. When I'm going to the transmitter site, she's got the ability to know exactly where I am on the way, and she knows where the site is because it's pinned on the map in her Google. And if my truck is sitting half a mile from the transmitter site for 4 hours, that's a problem. You know, as an example. Now, the other thing, and this comes more to contract than staff, because in staff, you all control your sites. I heard that. Y'all mostly control your sites. But, and this was an actual site I walked into and very quickly walked out of, because I just choose not to work with open panels. But so what do you do? How do you assess the danger assessment?
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of times if you're contract engineering, you're usually not called to go into somewhere because they have an engineer and they have someone taking care of it. Usually is the LPFM that there hasn't been someone for 2 years or some version of that. And a lot of times you have to really try hard to make sure you get all the access codes and keys, because sometimes it's literally physically hard to get in. But even more so, like you talked about using all your senses. You have to smell. There's always going to be something that's probably burnt, like almost always. An animal or a piece of gear, and we tell all our employees, like, please be safe. If you are uncomfortable, please call someone. Please make sure. And the other thing is, check where all the power is. Check what's plugged into where. He's shown pictures of rows and rows and rows of power extensions, and it's just sometimes you're going to kick it and turn something off. So try to find out how everything is powered and label it somehow, take pictures of everything so that after you've moved something, you can always move it back, because you will always forget what you just did.
Yeah, and that's one of the ones, I mean, one of the biggest tools we have is this thing. It records, it takes pictures, it calls a friend, but if you're on a mountaintop site in the middle of absolutely nowhere, that thing may or may not function. So, you know, in that situation, or if you need to get an internet connection for something. So, I mean, more and more, I mean, I keep Max Connect, it's hiding under my table here, providing Wi-Fi for the front of the house. But yeah, I mean, there are various things that we did session, had Greg Buckwald from Motorola in. He comes in with just a regular little Pelican-style handbag, attaché case, with a Starlink, the mini Starlink antenna in it. Carries one everywhere he goes. He's always got an internet connection. So, again, what you do will vary, but look at the options.
And also, I don't know if you've all experienced with this, but if you have AT&T Verizon, some sites your one service will work perfectly and the other one won't. If you get a credit point, try to get the other version of that to always match up, because for some strange reason that someone here could probably tell me, because they're smarter than me about how it's working there, but some sites your AT&T works, sometimes your Verizon, so always try to have a second.
Yeah. My running joke is, and everybody that knows me knows I growl about the iPhone. More than a little bit, apparently. And it's not always the phone's fault. Sometimes whoever they're roaming with is not, but it's the phone I'm holding, so that, and of course my other phone's on a different network and it says, oh, life is grand. So, you know, yeah. But I don't look at it when the iPhone's working, so I don't see it when it's not. And expect the unexpected. I get all kinds of pictures. By the way, that pile of wire is coming up next, so there you go. He anticipated the picture. But I can't tell you how many sites I've walked into, and this doesn't contract engineer, staff engineer, whatever, where you walk in expecting one thing and discover something completely different. You know, like you walk in, oh yeah, it's tripping because of SDVR, there's probably something growing up over the base insulator, and you come in and the top of the transmitter is melted into the bottom of the transmitter. And you say, oh, this day just got a little bit longer, or a lot longer. Now the challenge becomes, of course, you're not getting the parts instantaneously unless you have a new transmitter sitting in the shelf, so it might take a day. Harish, are you around? My mic buddy. Look,
good job.
So this year, just a little Vegas tip, since we're doing tips anyway. For the first time ever, I did not rent a car here. I staying at this hotel and going to the Westgate mostly, so I bought a monorail pass. I love the monorail, but it's more than 5 feet from here to the monorail. And when you get to either the convention center stop or the Westgate stop, on the Westgate stop it is 1.4 kilometers. That's 0.892 miles for you that speak in freedom units. But it's almost a full mile from the Westgate stop to the West Hall in our booth. I've done that trip 8 times so far in the past 3 days. So yeah, hoping to be a little less portly by the other problem is there's a lot of really good food here. So, all right, so expecting the unexpected. Andy Lowe from Michigan put this up. He's working with a two-way company, not two-way company, I forget what it is, some not broadcast company. We need him back in broadcast, but he was rebuilding a studio. And so he started taking out the old wiring. And he kept taking out the old wiring. And he kept taking out the old wiring. And what he found was it all came back to one yellow plug, plugged into the wall. One single outlet was driving the entire studio. If you look carefully at that picture, there are 2 timer switched outlets on there. There's a power bar. There are many quad boxes. I mean, so how many times do you run into that?
I don't want to say every day, but yeah, anytime we go somewhere, it's someone has put in something temporarily because they have to get it up. My personal belief is there's no such thing as temp cabling, because a temp cable will always be a permanent cable.
Yeah. Radio station temporary, yes, sir.
Especially at transmitter sites, because you know you're probably not getting out there as much as you wanted to, and then you know, I just need to get this back on the air, and you just run it across, you run across the floor, you do it, you plug in, I don't know, 18 things into one thing. So it's something that we run into all the time, and you know, that's why we tell our employees to take pictures of things before so you can trace it back, and try not to touch things that are going to kill you.
Now here is where too having a safety policy is beneficial, he says as he almost steps off the back of the podium. I'll give you an example. So we have a safety committee. Nautel, we're big, we work with some pretty scary stuff. It's not scary, it just demands respect, because it doesn't care if I live or die at the end of the day. So we have a safety committee, and they do a walkthrough on a very regular basis. And I mean, they don't just walk through the facility, the factory, the electrical parts, they walk through the offices. And I've been dinged for having a power bar plugged into a power bar. Apparently that's not considered wise. I'm just mentioning that because somebody who'll remain nameless at the end of the second row has a power bar in his laptop bag that we had plugged into a power bar with about 4 different laptops running off it. And it got us through the better part of the RF 101 yesterday. But pay attention to those. Have a policy. Have plans. Have a discussion with, and again, if you're contract engineer with the person you're contracting to, if you're an employee, have it with your manager or the state GM about what guidelines you need to follow with respect to your safety. OSHA theoretically says that you can't be fired refusing to do an unsafe job. And I said theoretically.
I was going to say, an important part of the thing when we're talking about safety and then the training for that is we try to teach our employees not just the specific examples of it, but the concepts behind a lot of the things we're doing, so that when they go to these places that they haven't been to and that we haven't been to, and we've all been talking about training and young people, is if you just show them the example and say, don't do this, when they go somewhere else or when they're not with you, they're not going to know how to do it. So if you can try to teach them concepts and then walk them through and go with them and then have them try to figure it out themselves and do it, it's really important, not for safety and for general learning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gave you the mic again.
I think I have it. My name is Javed Mughal, and I'll tell you a story. You probably never heard this about the safety. We had, once we had our tower located at very remote locations, a 6x4 shed right underneath the tower. And I had to go there at 11:30 p.m. to do some work on it. So while I'm working, about half an hour finish our work, moment I opened my door, 3 coyotes right at the door looking at me. I had no cell phone working. There's no other thing, of contact information. Nobody can hear me from far. Every half an hour, I peek through, they're still sitting there.
Wait.
And I had to spend a whole night sitting there until the morning. Thank you.
And they're sitting there going, dinner and a show. All right. Well, so I wanted to call Cameron up to talk about that. Like I said, it's easier for me to talk about stuff with somebody who's doing it every day. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.